Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst CGI effects in horror movies. For this list, we'll be looking at the most egregious, laughable, and simply unnecessary uses of computer-generated effects in horror movies. We'll also be including TV miniseries that are essentially whole films edited for television. Warning, some spoilers ahead. Which horror movies' special effects ruined the suspense for you? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Transformations. Van Helsing.
Anna!
This 2004 gothic horror thriller starring Hugh Jackman tried to update classic Universal characters like Dracula and Frankenstein's monster for the 21st century. The results were mixed at best. That's not to say Van Helsing doesn't have its fans. While the character designs themselves look convincing, in motion it's a whole different story.
This cannot be.
The climax shows monster hunter Abraham Van Helsing and Count Dracula transforming into their animal forms and battling to the death. As the creatures fight, their interactions with the environment are largely unconvincing, and the emotional beats of the story are muddled by distracting transformation effects.
Some things are better left forgotten.
Number 9. The Corn God. Children of the Corn. CGI is a constantly evolving technology, and while there's certainly a difference between bad CGI and old CGI, Children of the Corn is an example of both.
The Lord did come to me, and he was a shape. It was he who walks behind the rose.
This Stephen King adaptation tells the eerie story of a cult of murderous children who make human sacrifices to appease he who walks behind the rose, a bloodthirsty deity said to live among the corn stalks. Things get a little wacky when that deity finally makes an appearance in the last act, sort of. The only thing scary about this demon is how unimaginative it is. Represented by grainy coloured lights and a sentient red cloud, the movie's final boss is done in by a Molotov cocktail and unfortunate special effects.
Is he dead?
I think so.
Number 8. The Sculptures. The Haunting.
I'm gonna stop you now.
Based on a classic in the genre, this reviled remake veered away from the psychological horror that made the original movie, and the novel it's based on so memorable. What the original gets done with camera tricks and the power of suggestion, the remake can't even get done with 36 years of developments in special effects. While the haunted house itself is impeccably designed, once the walls start flexing and the crying sculptures made an appearance, it was over.
It's not real.
Jan de Bont directed this movie after practically revolutionising the modern CGI blockbuster with 1996's Twister, but the only thing The Haunting revolutionises is making crying ghost children not scary at all. Number 7. Baby Doll. One Missed Call.
That's not my ringtone.
Considered one of the worst J-horror remakes of the 2000s, clunky storytelling and wooden acting wasn't the only thing keeping this one from becoming a classic. One Missed Call also features many bizarre and downright incompetent CGI effects. This one is by far the most memorable, for all the wrong reasons. The makers of this cash-in attempt seriously overestimated the creep factor of a CG baby holding a cell phone. Unsupervised screen time? The horror. Although our glimpse of the baby lasts mere seconds, the lingering shot of its snarling and glowing eyes just adds to the ridiculousness of it all. Number 6. Freddy Caterpillar. Freddy vs. Jason. The Nightmare on Elm Street franchise has a long history of creative, practical effects, including those where Freddy takes the form of a worm-like creature. So why the heck does this design from 16 years later look so much worse? Yep, you guessed it, CGI. Narratively, we might be able to buy the explanation that the shoddy rendering is the work of stoner Bill Freeberg's psychedelics. Maybe. But any suspension of disbelief is further erased when the little guy decides to toke up alongside him. Sure, it's supposed to be a humorous bit, but it ultimately backfires as the scene turns serious when the caterpillar violently shoves itself down Freeberg's throat. Yeah, we're laying off the hookah after this one. Number 5. Mask Mix-Up. Halloween H2O 20 years later. What would the hopelessly homicidal Michael Myers be without his iconic mask? Apparently, this 1998 sequel required the use of multiple masks, which, as you'd expect, doesn't do wonders for the continuity department. Rather than reshoot the whole movie, which would have been tremendously expensive, certain shots were redone with a new mask. What couldn't be fixed with reshoots had to be digitally altered. The result is an eyesore of late 90s CGI.
Hi.
For a movie that had little to no other computer-generated effects, it's a moment that catches the eye in the worst way. Number 4. Possessed Deer. The Ring 2.
Rachel!
This unfortunate scene from the lackluster sequel finds original star Naomi Watts and child actor David Dorfman besieged by a horde of possessed deer on a country road. This wouldn't be so bad, but the CGI deer are so uncanny, so glossy that the only appropriate reaction to them is confusion. It's hard to take them seriously as a threat, even as they come crashing through the car windows antler first. Coupled with some truly awful smashing glass effects and naturally confounded performances from Watts and Dorfman, the only thing these deer scare away is any pretense of realism.
Rachel!
Number 3. The Langoliers. The Langoliers. Yet another Stephen King adaptation, this 1995 miniseries about a commercial airplane that somehow punches through a time wormhole and ends up stuck in the past. If these seem like the perfect circumstances for pure existential horror, just wait until the title monsters appear. The Langoliers, described as creatures who feast on time itself, give new meaning to the phrase scenery chewing. The only problem is that they look more like flying meatballs with teeth than temporal monsters. Although it's a miniseries, The Langoliers has to be on this list for the sheer audacity of trying to make us believe these balls of CGI badness are supposed to be scary.
Good lord, look at that!
What is it?
Number 2. Wall Freddy. A Nightmare on Elm Street. CGI-laden horror remakes have a habit of relying on digital technology to scare audiences. But usually, these attempts just make us remember how special the originals really were. Case and point, the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, it's not real.
It's real. I'm real.
In trying to recreate the iconic scare of Freddy Krueger appearing in the wall over Nancy's bed, the filmmakers opted for an overstated CGI effect that left little to the imagination and looked hopelessly fake. The original effect was done with low lighting and a spandex wall, proving that sometimes you just can't beat practical effects. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Computer-generated things. The Thing. While it was a box office disappointment in its first run, John Carpenter's 1982 gory sci-fi horror opus became a cult classic. This was due in large part to the graphic creature effects created by movie makeup legend Rob Bottin. When a prequel/remake was released in 2011, fans were disappointed that almost all the monsters became computer-generated in post-production. It's a shame because the movie otherwise isn't that bad, but without the practical effects of the 80s version intact, the cell-replicating extraterrestrials feel way less real and way less scary as a result. This is a case of unconvincing CGI taking away from a good horror movie. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.